This is Docs Outside the Box, episode 34.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real live insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
This episode is brought to you by Set for Life Insurance. Protect yourself against life setbacks with Set for Life Insurance. Set for Life Insurance gets you disability and life insurance at a reduced cost with their exclusive discounts. Now that's why I use them. Visit www.setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you. Hey docs, are you looking to learn how to become a physician leader? Then Physician CEO is for you. Physician CEO is an accelerated business immersion program designed for physicians and developed by MBA faculty from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. The 2018 program begins this January, so learn more at www.physician-ceo.com/DOTB. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I hope y'all have been enjoying all of the podcasts, all of the episodes so far. I hope you have been getting a lot of information from these people and getting inspired to live outside the box. This next guest is no doubt going to inspire you to do the same. But before I get into that episode, I want to take a quick moment to read an iTunes review. So this iTunes review is labeled Great for Medical Students or Great for Med Students, and it is written by Forever Roxy. As a med student starting rotations, it is great to hear different perspectives in medicine, and I feel better prepared for the quote-unquote real world. I also love the selection of guests. They are all extremely informative, passionate about their projects, and leaders in their respective fields. Also, the interview is clear and easy to follow during their quote-unquote rare downtime. Keep them coming. And no doubt, I'm going to keep it coming. Forever Roxy, thank you so much for the great 5-star review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. I so appreciate it. And for those who are listening, if you haven't gotten a chance to go ahead and leave a review, the link is in all of my show notes at the bottom. It only takes literally a couple of minutes to leave a review. Sometimes you don't even have to leave. Actually, you don't even have to leave a review. Just leave a rating. But anyhow, if you could leave a review, it really helps for me to do some constructive work on the show. Whether it's negative, whether it's positive, I don't care. Just leave me a review. It really helps a lot. But let's move on to the next episode. So our next episode, I'm going to start off by saying that I think literacy is very important. Look, we all know that, right? It's tied to everything we do. It plays a huge part in determining how we do economically in society. Now, in developing countries, childhood literacy is a problem. And my next guest decided to do something about this issue. My next guest is Dr. Akua Ampadu. She is the founder and CEO of the nonprofit Healing Words Foundation. Now, the mission of Healing Words is to provide books and other forms of literacy, including digital media, to children in pediatric wards and outpatient clinics in developing nations. Now, the whole idea of Healing Words came from an idea that she had when she spent a 4th-year rotation, a medical externship in Akua, Ghana. She was at the famed large teaching hospital called Korle-Bu Hospital in Akua, Ghana, and she spent some time in a pediatric ward. There, she got a chance to see children, unfortunately, with a lot of serious medical conditions. But she noticed a very small subtlety in the care. After the children were seen by the physicians and seen by various staff during the morning time, she noted that, afterwards, the children spent hours in bed without anything to do and without much stimulation. Some of these children, depending on their medical conditions, could spend a significant amount of time in the hospital. We're talking about several weeks recovering in these wards. And without proper cognitive stimulation, these children were at a distinct disadvantage when they returned back to school. They were far behind their peers. So this idea sparked the idea of Healing Words. And literally, when she got back, she went ahead and Googled how to start a charity, how to start a nonprofit, and the rest is history. Now, from the website, quote, Healing Words seeks to provide an opportunity to retreat into the comfort of a book, allowing the imagination to take flight if even for a short while. Healing Words recognizes the importance of reading to a child's holistic health and uses bibliotherapy to ignite and perpetuate a love for books among patients and their families, end quote. I am all down for that. So this organization started in 2016, and Healing Words literally has taken off. It has been very successful. It has sent books to notable hospitals, such as the FOCOS Hospital. You haven't heard about it. FOCOS Hospital is short for Foundation of Orthopedic and Complex Spine Hospital, and it provides comprehensive orthopedic care to those who might not otherwise have access to this. And this hospital has helped people from various areas in Africa, West Africa, as well as other countries, including Europe and the Middle East. So just a little bit about Akua. She is born and raised in Brooklyn. She is a New York native. She did her undergraduate studies at Penn State Altoona, and then from there went off to Ohio State University for medical school. And she then went into my turf, where I'm from. She did her internal medicine training at Newark Beth Israel in Newark, New Jersey, and is now working as a locums internist hospitalist. And I met Dr. Akua when we met at the Ghana Physicians and Surgeons Foundation this past year in Atlanta, Georgia, and she was talking about her organization. I got a chance to moderate her session, and she had the crowd fascinated with her lecture. It was amazing presentation. I wish you all had got a chance to see this. So things that I want you to pick up on this episode is we're going to talk about her decision to become an independent contractor and what that meant for her and her organization, as well as now the pride that she feels looking at herself more as a business than as an individual doctor. We're going to talk about the opportunity and the situation where she Googled how to create a charity and some of the pitfalls that she went through starting this organization. She's also going to give advice for other people who are listening to the show who are looking for advice on how to start a charity. We're going to hear a life hack that she uses to make herself very successful and very productive. And then, of course, obviously, we're going to hear about how she answers #I'm not just a doc. So look, enough of me talking. Let's get on with the interview. So I am here excited to have Dr. Akua Ampadu, founder and CEO of Healing Words Foundation. Dr. Ampadu, welcome to Docs Outside the Box. What's up?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is an awesome opportunity, and I'm so excited.
I'm glad you made time for us. You've been flying all over the place. Can I borrow some freaking fly miles? Dang.
Don't worry. Whatever you need, I got it.
You going Delta? Hook me up.
Yes, I've had a very fun past few months, but it's time to get back on the grind. All right?
All right, cool. So look, before we get on the grind on this show, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us where you're from, what medical school, take it from there.
Okay, so like you said, my name's Akua. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn stand up. Brooklyn stand up. But my family is from Ghana, so I consider myself, I guess you would say, a true African American. Mm-hmm. My roots being from Ghana. Born and raised in Brooklyn, did elementary school, junior high school there. And then I went to Penn State for undergrad, so I'm a Nittany Lion as well.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to the another Big Ten school, Ohio State. So I'm a Buckeye as well.
Is that the other U, I guess?
No, we just call OHIO.
Okay, all right.
So okay. It gets kind of hairy around football season, because people are always asking me, are you rooting for Penn State or Ohio State? And if you really know me, you know that I'm always blue and white. So always bigging up Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State had a really good year this past year.
They had an awesome year. It was kind of our resurrection year after all the things that have happened over the past
controversy, huh?
We're not
going to bring it up on this show, though.
We won't. We keep everything PG, all right?
Right.
But so I did my my medical school out in Ohio, and then I kind of got homesick and knew I had to come back to the East Coast. So I came to Jersey to do my residency over at Newark Beth Israel Hospital in Newark, New Jersey.
Look, before you go any further, the parallels between your life and my life are uncanny. So if the audience doesn't know, I'm actually, my family's from Ghana also, and I am a true African American also. And what's funny is, like, so obviously we have that in common, and then obviously I work in Central PA, and I'm not too far from Penn State, right? And then I'm from Newark, New Jersey. You did your residency there too, so it's crazy. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just the parallels of how we've probably crossed paths and not said anything to each other, and we just finally met earlier this year. It's ridiculous.
It is. But you know what? The world is small. And I guarantee you that now that we've, finally met, we'll probably be bumping into each other even more in the future.
Well, I'm stalking you on Instagram, so.
Trust me, my Instagram is not that exciting. Don't listen to anything that Nee says. So,
We'll once we put down your Instagram handle on the show, we'll see what the audience has to say about that. All right.
All right, I hear you. I'll be expecting like 500 more followers, so we'll see.
Right. Docs Outside the Box audience, stand up, step up, make sure you sign up for her.
So I did my residency in New Jersey, and then after that, I just decided to stay in Jersey. I just loved being close to New York, and I'm just an East Coast girl at heart. So I got my first job as an attending out in New Jersey, and I guess the rest is history.
Okay. All right. And currently right now you are practicing full-time, part-time, or not at all?
So that's kind of a loaded question right there. All right. So kind of like what I said before, once I was done with residency, I got my first job as an attending, as a hospitalist. I kind of didn't want to do fellowship because, truth be told, there was no specialty that really piqued my interest. As a resident, you rotate in various specialties: endocrinology, critical care, infectious disease, and I just didn't love any of them enough to decide to do a fellowship. At one point, I was interested in rheumatology, but truth be told, I noticed that I am not a fan of the clinic. And rheumatology is very clinic heavy. Right. And I love being in the hospital. I love taking care of acutely ill patients. I love, being surrounded by hundreds of people in the hospital. I love, making friends with the nursing staff, the janitor, everybody. Maybe because I'm just a real people person, I just love being in a hospital, which is why I decided to go into hospitalist medicine. So I did it for about a year full time. And, nothing in medical school or residency can prepare you for what it's like to be an attending. They tell you about.
I thought the 80-hour work week isn't that the way how the real world is?
It is how the real world is. Yeah, right. I guess you would say
that was a joke.
As residents, insert sarcasm. But I don't think that anybody prepares you for the business side of medicine.
Pray tell. Keep going.
And that is what I was kind of in shock with when I became an attending, because not only was I expected to see patients, but I also had to churn a certain number of patients, every month. I also was expected to discharge patients within a certain time frame for insurance purposes. So I was working, doing my whatever it was, 60 to 80 hours a week, and I was exhausted. Mm-hmm. I was exhausted, and I was at a job where we weren't really doing 7 days on, 7 days off. It was more like 5 days during the week, then you get a weekend off, and then you come back for another 5 days, and then you still have to do 1 week in a month, and it was exhausting. I would come home and I would just crash on my couch. So I knew that I couldn't keep it up. And while I was working, I had a lot of friends that were just starting to whisper in my ear, why don't you try locums? And I was like, I've heard about locums. I don't know too much about it. It's kind of a weary subject. No one really tells you about locums in residency. But I was so tired that I said, you know what, I got to do something. So I quit my full-time job and I went into independent contracting under locums.
That locums life.
Yeah. And, honestly, I've been doing it for the past few months, and it's been the greatest blessing that I could even describe. Right. I wouldn't go back. So that's why when you ask me if I practice medicine full time, I do, but I practice it now under my own terms and for myself as an independent contractor.
Okay, so look, some of our audience members, they are medical students, they are residents, and some are even early attendings who don't know anything about locums. So tell us about what your typical schedule is, maybe not from a daily standpoint, but just from an overall standpoint. Like, how is it different now compared to how it was when you were employed?
Okay, so first and foremost, when it comes to being an independent contractor, I think it's more of a mental decision before it's an actual physical decision. So you have to recognize that you are no longer, quote unquote, a hospital employee, but you're an employee of yourself. So you have the opportunity to either work with locums companies that will contract you out to other hospitals or facilities. Sometimes it's not just hospitals. Or you can work for yourself and contract yourself independently. So what I do is I work with about 2 or 3 separate locums companies. I tell them my requirements of what I want in a job. Hey, I don't want to do procedures. I don't want to put in central lines. I don't want to do ABGs. Maybe I don't want to do ICU coverage. I want somewhere where there's a closed ICU. Heaven forbid my patient should have to go into the ICU. I no longer manage that patient. I make my decision as to whether or not I want to manage ventilators or not. And most importantly, I tell them how many patients I am willing to see. You know, unfortunately, with the shortage of physicians now, a lot of physicians in the hospitals can be very overwhelmed. You know, they can see somewhat 20, 25 patients. But now, since I work for myself, when I present myself to a hospital or to a locums company, I let them know, hey, I don't want to see more than 18 patients.
So basically, you feel as though you have leverage more so than as a hospital employee to kind of take that stance of, this is how many people I want to see, this is how much I want to get paid, this is how many hours I want to work. Is that kind of, do I have the gist of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the number one thing that I appreciate the most about doing locums now compared to a full-time hospital employee is the fact that I own my time and I own my schedule. I figure out at the beginning of the month how much money I want to make, whether it's just to pay my bills, to pay my loans, or to just, you know, buy my Gucci bag. I don't know. And then I say to myself, okay, I need to work this amount of shifts during the month to make this amount of money. Mm-hmm. If that means working 5 days straight, I'll do that. If that means working 7 days straight and then taking 7 days off or whatever it is, then I do that. It gives me the opportunity to also leverage what I do with my personal time. Say I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks, and I know exactly during the month when I need those 2 weeks off. I can create my schedule so I work around those 2 weeks.
And then you can be stunting in Ghana on Instagram.
You know, you already know. So that is the beauty of locums. And like I said, no one told me this while I was a resident. I never even heard of the word locums while I was a med student. But I'm so grateful that I found out about it. And I implore anybody who's interested in working for themselves or who's just tired to do more research and find out about it. I think it's life-changing.
So now that you got my entire audience ready to quit their jobs and jump into this locums life, so the reason I got you on this show is because we met earlier in the year at the Ghana Physicians and Surgeons Foundation meeting. And the reason we met is I was the moderator and I actually got an opportunity to introduce you, and you spoke about your foundation, which you are the founder and CEO of, which is Healing Words Foundation. And, you know, we spoke and I learned more about your organization. I found it extremely fascinating. So I said, I got to have you on the show because I think that this is something that is amazing. This is something that is still very grassroots, but you're having a very large reach. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that on the show. So can you tell us about your foundation, Healing Words Foundation?
Sure. So Healing Words is my labor of love. It is something that I started back in 2016. Going into medical school and becoming a physician, I did it because I loved patient care. I love taking care of people. I know that's like the formative answer everybody gives on their med school application essay, but it's the truth for me.
on mine.
That's what everybody puts on theirs, But that's the answer and that's the truth. However, I've always felt that my reach as a physician is farther than working in a hospital or working in a clinic. I always had a sense that somehow I would have some type of global impact as a physician. I always knew that I wanted to do some type of philanthropy, but I just didn't know what exactly it would be. Oftentimes when people think about physicians and giving back in philanthropy, they usually consider medical missions or providing hospital supplies or just giving basic money for funding. And I knew that I wanted to do something different. I respect everybody who goes out and does medical missions and who, provides hospital beds where they're needed and things like that. But I just kind of wanted to do something a bit different. So the idea came to me kind of after doing an externship in Ghana. My senior year in a medical school as a fourth year at Ohio State, we're afforded the opportunity to do a 1-month externship as like a global project. And I decided to go to Ghana with a friend of mine. And I actually worked at Kolebu Hospital, which is the teaching hospital in Accra, Ghana, which is the capital of Ghana. And even though I was interested in internal medicine, I wanted to do something a little different. So I went and I worked in the pediatric ward for 1 month. It was a fantastic experience. I mean, I saw children with the most common ailments in sub-Saharan Africa, which are usually malaria, sickle cell. But I also saw things like nephrotic syndrome or cirrhotic liver from hepatitis. Very, very unfortunate situations with young
children.
Yes, in children.
Wow.
In children, and one thing that was so amazing to me was the endemic of Burkitt's lymphoma.
Yeah.
They actually
I've seen that a lot actually on my mission trips there.
Right. They actually have like a Burkitt's ward where it's just children with Burkitt's, and it's like your textbook coming to life. So I learned so much during that trip. But one thing I noticed while I was there is that these children would come, their parents would bring them. Their parents oftentimes could not stay with them because they had to work or they had other children to take care of. And these children had no type of stimulation. After the attending and the med students and the nurses would run with them in the morning, these kids would just lay on the beds or in the cradles for hours doing nothing. There was one television screen, and sometimes they would gather the children around and let them watch the TV for like an hour, watch cartoons, and then that was it. And I said to myself, back in the U.S., most hospitals have teachers, social workers, libraries, computers, some type of entertainment and brain stimulation for children that are in hospital wards. And that's when I recognized, okay, this is something that I can tap into. This is something that I can do and I can help with. So Healing Words Foundation, in a sense, is a literary charity. What we do is we provide reading material, fairy tale books, crayons, encyclopedias, reference books, computer media, things of that nature, to children in pediatric wards and in clinics in developing nations.
Now, why did you decide that this is something that you wanted to do as opposed to other things? Is there why so passionate about books? Why so passionate about literary challenging and stimulating of these children?
Well, for one, I am an avid reader. And I think that my desire and my love for reading is one of the major reasons why I am a physician now. My mother always boasts to people that I started reading at a very young age. And I can remember always asking my parents to read, and I do understand that there is a direct link between literacy and literacy rates and poverty. Now, I'm not expecting myself to go and change the poverty rates in some of these countries just by providing these children with books. But I do feel like that there is some type of impact if you can have these children not just sitting in a bed for hours, staring at the wall, looking at each other, but rather giving them something that's engaging. Another thing is being in a hospital is very stressful, as many people know. Imagine being a child, you're 4 or 5 years old, you have maybe malaria or sickle cell, your parents are not around, you're scared. You know, if I can give them something that's entertaining, that can get their mind off of being alone for a few hours, I think that makes some sort of impact. And that's why I'm trying to do what I'm doing.
Okay. So now that you have the idea to start this organization, now that you know that this is, in essence, your cross to bear, right? Mm-hmm. So to speak, how did you go from, idea to actual action? Take us through that process.
Okay. Well, like you said, it was an idea, and I'm a physician. What I know is how to take care of people. Yeah. I know nothing about starting a business or a charity, anything like that. So Google quickly became my friend.
All right. So you Googled. Okay.
I definitely Googled, literally Googling how to make a charity. And I will be very upfront and let you know that it was not easy. I learned a lot of things along the way. And one thing I would suggest to anybody who has a desire to create a charity or some type of nonprofit organization is that you have to look at it as a business. Despite the fact that you're trying to help somebody, at the end of the day, a charity is a business. And you have to operate it like that in order for it to succeed and for it to stand. So
you're talking about self-sustainability.
Exactly. So first and foremost, I recognized that I had to register the name of the organization in my state, New Jersey. I had to register it. Then I had to also apply for an EIN, an employed ID number, which in a sense is the tax ID for the government.
So they can get their cut. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And also, so we could apply for a nonprofit tax exempt status in the future.
So talk more about that. What's it like starting, because you're basically an NGO, right?
Yes.
And you are 501c3, all these different letter type organization. What was that like?
So again, I kind of did not know what I was doing.
So Google again?
Yeah. So I Googled. So once I created the name, I filed with the New Jersey Department of, I think, Business. I may be mistaken. I filed the name. I got my paperwork. I got an EIN. And then I said to myself, okay, how do I actually make this an NGO and try to get tax exemption with the IRS? That's when I learned that there were so much more hurdles that I had to go through. Number one, you have to create bylaws for your charity. After that, sometimes you have to amend these bylaws. Then you have to create articles of incorporation. And again, these were all new languages I had never heard of. So what I decided to do was to hire a company that specializes in helping charities get their nonprofit tax exempt status. So I actually worked with a company called Charity Net USA, and I just paid them and they created everything for me. They created the bylaws. I had an interview with them for about an hour, and based on the information I gave them, they were able to create my conflict of interest policy, my bylaws, my articles of incorporation, everything. So I would recommend to anyone, if you're not in the nonprofit sector, to possibly get some outside help, because you really kind of don't want to screw up this paperwork, especially when all this paperwork then needs to be presented to the IRS for them to decide whether or not they're going to give you tax exempt status.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Understanding how to run a business in medicine will put you at a unique advantage in the future. Whether it's leading a hospital, practice, or starting a new venture, the Physician CEO program will put you in focus from day one. Physician CEO is an accelerated business immersion program developed by MBA faculty from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. The Physician CEO program provides an intensive MBA-style education made up of modules, with each module covering topics from leadership to entrepreneurial ventures. Because of their individualized structure, each participant leaves the program with their 1, 3, and even 5-year business plan, all designed to function in the real world. If you're a physician who is looking to start your own venture, lead your practice or department, or even start planning for succession out of medicine, then you can't afford to miss this opportunity. Class is filling up. The 2018 program begins this January. Learn more at www.physician-ceo.com www.ecosystem.org/DOTB. Let's fast forward a little bit. You got your tax exempt status. You got all of the things that you were just talking about in order. What's it like? Okay, now that you've started this organization, what is it like going overseas? So the first country that you're doing this is Ghana, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
So I definitely wanted to do Ghana, one, because I'm Ghanaian, and I figured, hey, if I'm going to go help somebody, it should be my fellow people. And also because working in Ghana is what gave me the inspiration to actually do the project. I would say that it takes a lot of patience to work with any type of, to do any type of work overseas. You know, here in the US, things are so accessible with the internet. You can call somebody or call an organization. Things are a bit different overseas. For me, my desire with Healing Words was to provide books free of charge to hospitals. Any hospital that wants it, I would just give it to them. You would not believe how hard it was for me to even find a hospital that would take the books.
Are you serious?
Yes. You know, I went online.
I would think trying to get it into the country, trying to go through customs, but really trying to even get a hospital to even take the books. What was their big holdup, or could you pinpoint that? Or
the first thing I wanted to do before even trying to figure out how to get the books over was to find where to go. There were a few hospitals that I was interested in, specifically in Accra, the capital, because I knew that's where I would be visiting. Either I would email them and I would never hear back from them, or I would call them.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, I would call them. Whoever would pick up the phone would say, oh, we'll get back to you. Never get back to you. I would WhatsApp people. It got to the point where I was WhatsApping, using that app, and I would not hear from anybody. Luckily, though, FOCOS Hospital in Accra, being a U.S.-based hospital, it was very easy for me to connect with them because they already had a U.S. presence. So
now FOCOS, that's the famous orthopedic surgery hospital that's run by Dr. Boache?
Yeah, Dr. Boache Ajay, yes.
Okay. And this hospital, they are the ones that basically responded back to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So they responded. They were very appreciative, and they actually let me know of they have quite a special, I don't know how to say it, dilemma of sorts, in the fact that though they are in Ghana, many of their pediatric patients come from Ethiopia. They have a connection with a group out in Ethiopia that actually brings these children to Ghana for spinal surgeries. So many of these children do not speak English, and they were actually requesting if we could bring books in the Ethiopian language of Amharic for these children. So that was a very interesting thing to tackle, which I can speak more about in a few. But going back to your original question, I think communication is the hardest thing that I had to overcome in order to provide these books. After that, it would be the cost of shipping. Books are heavy. Mm-hmm. If you collect 15, 20 books, you can easily hit 50 pounds. And if you're trying to ship these books overseas, you can easily spend $400, $500 to send these books over.
And there's no media mail for overseas. Right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then if you're going somewhere like Africa, Europe, wherever, you want to ship these books out minimum 1 month in advance so that they actually get there. So I was very concerned about how we would pay for the cost of the shipping of the books. Luckily, for this first time, I actually had a shipper offer to do it free of charge.
Okay.
He supported the foundation. He thought that what we were doing was a great thing. So he said, you know what, just give me the books and I'll ship them to you guys, ship them to Ghana for you guys for free. So I was very, very appreciative. I'm hoping I get more people that will help me to ship books in the future, or at least get donations for shipping, because that seems to be, again, probably the second largest hurdle after communication.
Now, Dr. Akua, how long have you been doing this work with Healing Words?
Well, I officially founded Healing Words at the end of last year. We became a official organization in October of 2016. So we've been running for less than 1 year.
but you guys have kind of exploded because, I mean, based off of your lecture, based off of what I'm seeing on your website and the reach that you've had, I mean, it's almost like overnight success.
Thank you. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way because there's so much work that's put into it. But I think social media has a lot to do with that. Whenever you put something on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, you know, hopefully it's bound to get some type of feedback. You know, I'm grateful for all the people that have donated books. I've had people send me emails and say, hey, I want to donate. And I've had people just directly send books to our mailbox. You know, I'll open the mailbox and there'll be like 10, 15 books. I'm grateful for all of that. I'm grateful for the people that have given financial donations to help offset the cost of shipping, as well as for us to physically buy materials for the children. So even though we've been around for less than a year, you're absolutely right. You know, we've taken the ground running and we're not going to stop. Now,
what's it like managing this organization, this foundation, as well as practicing full time? How are you able to balance this work?
Locums.
And that's that. Let's move on.
That's the answer. You know, because I always had this desire to do this. But when I was working as a hospital employee, I didn't have the time. Straight up, I did not have the time. After, like I said, seeing some odd patients and working all those hours, I would come home and crash. And I was so tired. But then when I switched from full-time to locums, I actually took about 1 or 2 months off at the beginning of the year. And I just went gung-ho and I made Healing Words my full-time job. You know, so that's the time where I made all the cold calls to the hospitals, when I was trying to figure out the shipping information, when I was gathering books, building the website. So that time off really helped me to do this. And this is almost like another full-time job. You know, a lot of people don't recognize it, but running a charity or a nonprofit takes a lot of time and energy. You know,
go ahead, please.
I was going to say that the beauty of locums now is because I create my own schedule, I can kind of decide, okay, maybe I need a week off to just do Healing Words stuff. And then after that week, I'll go back to seeing patients in the hospital. So it really is a juggle of time, but to get both things done. And my last piece of advice I would give to anybody is, if you want to do multiple things, you want to be a doctor, you also want to be a businesswoman, you also want to sell CDs out of the back of your car,
pop the trunk,
you know, do whatever kind of hustle you want to do as a physician, you have to wake up early. That is something that I struggled with.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. So my previous guest, at least from their standpoint, and I think a lot of people are starting to get this sense that a lot of very successful people, they all wake up very early. They go to bed early and they wake up, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're able to consistently do work and be consistent with that. And, I still struggle with that. So obviously you found something that works for you. So talk to us more about waking up early and getting work done.
So trust me, it is not easy for me to wake up early. I love my sleep. I will not lie to you. But what I realized was, if I could wake up around, say, 5 and start doing some work for Healing Words before everybody else woke up or before people were at work, that I was kind of ahead of the game.
So no Facebook, no Instagram, like you are just doing straight work for Healing Words.
I mean, of course, I got to do my little browsing. Mm-hmm. But, at 5 a.m., people don't really post. Right. People don't really post. So there's nothing really to see at that time. So you tend to be more productive. And what I recognized was, say, for instance, I had to call the New Jersey Department of Treasury to work something out for Healing Words. When I call the minute they open, I get somebody on that phone. So I would
turn the lights on, the phone is ringing.
That's right. So if the website says our hours of operation are from 8 to 5, I'd be on the phone at 8:02 calling them, and I would get somebody. If you call around 11 o'clock, you're going to get that busy signal. You're going to get that music playing in the background. You're going to be waiting for 30 minutes.
And so let's pivot for a quick second, because obviously we've been talking about Ghana. Ghana is the first place that you are, introducing healing words and having a lot of success for these children. So for the audience members who have never been to Ghana, for people who've never been there before, have never seen Anthony Bourdain in Ghana or anything else like that, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Tell us, describe Ghana for us. Tell us what it's like when you're landing and you're getting off the plane and there's no terminal. You're walking onto the tarmac. Tell us about that. What it's like.
Me is trying to make Ghana like some crazy place. Let me tell you, Ghana is the most magical place on earth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
No, no, but honestly, Ghana is, I would say, one of the most forthcoming sub-Saharan African nations out there. It's on the Western Hemisphere of Africa. From New York, it's about I think 10-hour direct flight.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the beauty of Ghana is the people. The people. We've been blessed with the ability to not have to struggle with any type of civil war compared to many of our counterparts in other nations. For the most part, we have a stable economy. It may not be the best economy, but it is fairly stable. And we have some of the nicest people, I feel, in Africa. Ghana is a place that will welcome you with open arms. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, whether you're Caribbean, whether you're American, whether you're Asian, they will welcome you with open arms. I also feel like Ghana is a place that has a lot of opportunity for anyone trying to make their mark in Africa. People always say Africa is the future, but to me, I say Africa is now.
I love that.
There's so much opportunity to invest in Africa, whether you want to do business, whether you want to work in the health sector, whether you want to do social media, entrepreneurship, tech. And I do believe that Ghana is one of the forefront places to do that in Africa. So, hey, if you've ever desired to go to Africa, I mean, the safaris are awesome in Kenya and South Africa, but definitely put Ghana on your radar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, there's something about just flying over, as you're getting close to the airport, flying over, the red clay. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you land and they open up the airport or the airplane doors, and it's just, you feel the humidity and you feel, it's just something that's just very unique, and I love it, and I've been going to Ghana since I was 2 years old and stuff, and going on a yearly basis, and it's just that welcoming feeling when you get off the plane and going onto the tarmac and walking into the terminal. It's something that's so distinct that you don't really get in other places. So it's always something I always remember. I always look forward to getting off the plane, and but it's something that I think a lot of people should experience, right? Whether it's mission work or whether it's doing some type of charitable work or even doing some type of entrepreneur work. Because I think one thing that I from a standpoint of someone who's from Ghana is like it's no longer just a place to do charitable work now. Now it's a time. Yep. It's a place to make money.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And to do very well there. So thank you very much for describing that. I really appreciate that. And I just want to pivot one more time before we go into our quick, fast questions is, if you could do this all again, what would you do differently?
Now, if I could do what, being a physician or healing words, which part?
If you could do Healing Words Foundation again, would you do anything differently, or would you have done everything kind of the same way, which is just kind of bootstrap things and kind of make it happen and go from there? Or would you have, I don't know, do something completely different, hire someone earlier as opposed to later?
Mm-hmm. I think because we're still so new, there is still a lot left for me to learn. I think for the most part, being someone who had never had any experience in the nonprofit sector, that things kind of, went okay. I would say, if anything, I would have desired to recognize the importance of media in the wellness of children. At the beginning, I was very focused on just getting books, hard copy books. And then, someone actually told me, a pediatrician, as a matter of fact, told me, children actually learn from videos and from computer programs. So maybe you shouldn't just focus on books, but also see if you can get educational videos that they can play in these hospitals and actually impact several children at one time. So with our first drop off at FOCOS, we gave about 150 books, just books. But going forward, I think that I would try to do maybe half and half books and half media contents, whether it be videos, whether it be iPads, hint, hint. If you're out there sponsoring iPads, we will gladly take them or anything like that. So I think that if anything, that's probably what I would change. And definitely recognizing that you have to do this as a business. Okay. Even though I don't do it for money, I get nothing out of this financially. You have to have a business mindset or it just won't work properly.
All right. So, Dr. Akua, we're almost towards the end of our interview. So let's do some quick, fast questions. You game?
I'm game. Let's go.
You ready to do this? All right. What's one thing that you want listeners to get from this podcast?
That you can be a physician and still follow your dreams and your passions. You being a physician should not just pigeonhole you to a clinic or to a hospital for 12 to 14 hours a day. If there's something else that you want to do, no matter how tired you are, no matter how many people say, no, just focus on your patients. No, do it.
Dr. Akua about to start a revolt out there with all the listeners.
But take care of your patients too, okay? They're very important.
I love it. All right, what's your favorite Ghanaian dish?
Okay. Before I even answer that, let me just put my disclaimer out there that Ghana jollof is much better than Nigerian jollof, okay?
That's what I'm saying. You causing mad controversy on my show.
But jollof is not my favorite dish, even though I do love it. But I would probably say...
So jollof is, for those who don't know, jollof is a type of rice, a very distinctive rice that is made in Ghana that's very delicious.
Yes. But I would have to say probably plantains and spinach stew. I love my spinach stew.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Very good. Knowing what you know now, let's say you had an opportunity to go back in time. You were able to get into the DeLorean, like in Back in the Future.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice would you have given yourself as a pre-med?
Wow.
Stumped you on that one.
Yeah, you did. I'm like, man, that was so long ago.
Oh, come on. You're not that old.
You know what? I would tell my pre-med self, believe in yourself more than other people believe in you. Unfortunately, I had a lot of situations in pre-med, in undergrad, where people flat out told me that they didn't think I was smart enough to be a physician. I would go to a guidance counselor. I actually had a guidance counselor try to convince me to go to PT school. Not saying that PT school is bad, but that was not what I envisioned for myself. So a lot of times the things that I was hearing from people would really hurt my self-esteem. So there were many times where I questioned whether or not I was smart enough to be a physician, whether or not I had what it takes to be a physician. But thank God I had such an awesome mom who was always encouraging me, always telling me, don't listen to what other people say. This is what you want to do. Believe in God, believe in yourself, and it will get done. And look at me now. Years later, I did accomplish that goal. So I would definitely tell my pre-med self, as well as anybody that's listening now, you have to have confidence in yourself. There will be naysayers out there. There will be people that don't support you, but you have to believe and you have to want it. And trust me, you'll have the last laugh.
Dr. Akua, dang. You need to go into coaching.
Really?
Yeah, you're good at this.
Maybe
I love it. I love the energy. You are infectious, and that was an amazing response. So thank you very much. So for all those pre-meds, take that advice very, very closely. Take that advice and run with it. That's some really good advice.
Absolutely.
So the last sentence or the last statement I present to all my guests is, I'm not just a doc, it's an opportunity for you to kind of describe what you are besides just being a physician. You kind of already alluded to this in your earlier answer. So, Dr. Akua Ampadu, I present to you the sentence, I'm not just a doc, I'm a
philanthropist and a social entrepreneur.
Hey, that's big nowadays.
Yes, it is. And I'm jumping on that bandwagon.
I love it.
Last but not least, I'm a hustler.
There you go.
I'm a hustler. I'm always looking for ways to cut the check or find ways to make my life easier and find different hustles. I love putting my hand in different baskets. So definitely I'm a hustler.
And that is something that we don't get taught in med school, right? That's something to be a hustler. Like we're focused and we're taught to just basically follow the schedule, follow the plan because everybody else does it. And being a hustler, there's this notion of kind of, not following the rules and kind of going outside of the lines and living outside the box, right? So that type of mentality is, what's the word I want to use? That type of mentality is not really cultivated, I think. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I think that's definitely the spirit that we want to, or at least the spirit that I want to emphasize on this show. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Thank you. I mean, you're the ultimate hustler right now. I mean, you see, I don't know how many patients you see in the hospital, you're doing your surgery thing and then you come and then you do this podcast and all your other ventures. So trust me, Dr. Darker, you're the ultimate hustler. I'll be waiting for your book. Thank
you very much. I'm just giving the people what they want. You know what I'm saying? Now, Akua, awesome. This was an amazing interview. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is great. I think the audience is going to learn a lot from you. And I just want to acknowledge you for what you're doing. You're doing amazing work. You are infectious. Your energy is great. Obviously, you took your life, by the horns and just said you were going to take control of your life and you're not going to be defined by what someone is going to say that your life has to be. So right. I want to acknowledge you for doing that. And then not just stopping there and being comfortable with, creating your own schedule and, actually getting the pay that you actually want. But you decided to use that opportunity to basically help others who are in desperate need or who are in need. So I just want to acknowledge you for what you're doing, acknowledge you for starting, Healing Words. I think it's amazing work. And please just take a moment to tell the audience about how they can find out about your organization, how they can read up about your organization, and in the future, how can they donate to your organization?
Okay. Thank you so much for those kind words. Like I said before, it truly is a labor of love. And if more people can support and more people can have the same vision that we do, definitely it'll be bigger than my wildest dreams. So our website is reading, READING, and healing, ANDHELING.org. You can email us at info@readingandhealing.org. On the website, there's actually a link for our Amazon wish list where we have a couple books that you can actually just purchase straight from Amazon and they'll be sent to us. There is also a PayPal link where you can offer financial donations. And then our actual address where you can ship out books to us is also on the website. We also have a Facebook page, Healing Words Foundation. Also an Instagram page by the same name. On Instagram, we're healingwords.org.
I'll be following you.
Sounds good. And then I have my personal Instagram since Nee wants to bring up my shenanigans.
Your social entrepreneur alter ego.
Trust me, it's not as exciting as he claims it is, but it is at Dr. Cookie, DoctorKukie.
Dr. Akua Ampadu, this was amazing.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
That was a lot of fun. I really felt as though Dr. Ampadu, she came through, she was open, she was honest, and I think that her energy is going to really resonate with you all. I know I really enjoyed it. It gave me chills just listening to this interview again. And listen, if you want to learn more about Dr. Ampadu and her charity Healing Words Foundation, make sure you check her out at readingandhealing.org. And if you want to donate to her, The links are in the show notes. This is definitely the organization that you want to donate to. So remember, if you have or you know someone who would really benefit from this show, please share this podcast with that person. Either tweet it to them, share it to them via text. I think the best way is to share it to them via Instagram. I know everybody is not on Instagram, but I think one of the best ways is to use Instagram stories, and go ahead and tag me on that. I will shout you out. I love the feedback as always. You can find me on Instagram with the handle NiiPDarko, NiiPDarko, and then also on Facebook and Twitter with the handles of DocsOTB. That's DocsOTB. And as always, if I said it too fast, the links are on the website. As always, please, if you also enjoyed this podcast, besides sharing it, please leave me a 5-star review. The link is in the show notes to do it in Apple Podcasts. It doesn't take too long. It helps the show to grow. I'm telling you, I really appreciate it. And in general, if you enjoy any podcast in general, please go ahead and leave them a review. It really helps the show, their show, to grow. And look, it gets to be seen by more listeners if you leave a review. And then also at the same time, it allows us to keep bringing you great guests. So look, I'm going to catch you on the next episode. But before I jet, remember, we only got one life. Let's make it count and live outside the box. Peace.